Thanks for joining us today. We're going to discuss something really important, and that is the IASD ethics and confidentiality statement. So we're going to go over why it was created, what it is, and what are the main points that it's covering.
Hi, I'm Nicolina. So I am the head of the IASD Social Networking Committee. And one of the things we're very aware of the ethics statements because we talk to the outside world. And I actually really like it that they did that. It's always been on ISD since they started 40 years ago, a very big point for them to be both inclusive and ethical. But in 1997, they thought, let's really make a statement based on all the experience that we have and all the knowledge that we have indoors. Now, I've broken it down into 7 points. They don't have it on the website. It's just one statement. But there's 7 points that I think are really important in it. So how about I just name them and then we can discuss them one by one. And I know it sounds boring, but these things make it or break it, kind of. It's like, it's more almost like if you want to talk about dreams at home or with your kids or with your friends, it's kind of a what not to do and what to do instead statement. So I've actually found it really helpful for myself as well.
Yes, exactly. It is very important. Just at home, casual dream conversation. And also if you're planning on putting together a dream group or, classes or become kind of on the teacher side of things. So I really love that it covers everything.
Yeah, actually, they also have one for teachers as well. But let's list one thing at a time.
Okay,
Just for discussing
perfect.
dreams with someone else, like one on one, you discuss dreams, and then what do you have to keep in mind, right? Because it's kind of delicate, and you don't want to, you know, be unkind about it. So 7 points. Let's just go over them one by one, real quick. One of them is like the most important. You always respect someone else's integrity. Like someone had a dream, that's their dream. So you're not going to tell them, oh, I know what that means because it's their dream. You don't know. And you're not going to take over that authority. I love that one because it gives people the power to have their own dreams on their own terms. And the second one, which is also really cool for me, is like every dream can have multiple meanings. So you can't just say, oh, it means this, the end of story, because, people might think so. I would love to go into that later on the why and the what to do with that as well. Well, another one that I really love is someone might want to talk to you about a dream and in the middle of the conversation stop. Just they have the power. You always honor their decision to talk or not talk about it. Number 4, a dreamer should be warned that if you talk about it, there might be emotions coming up. Maybe you think, oh, it's just a dream, I don't know. But then you talk about it and you start thinking about it. Things might come up. That's also something that I'd love to give some examples for on how to handle that or how I handle that. I don't have the authority, of course. Number 5 is you kind of have to sort of agree on confidentiality. And that can be really simple. Like you sit apart with someone in a bar and say, okay, but like let's not share this with the entire group. But you kind of have to know if I'm going to put someone on my podcast, I don't have a podcast right now, but if I would, then maybe they'd want to know that out front. Number 6 is it's not psychotherapy unless you're a psychotherapist, which sounds simple, but it's actually kind of a pitfall. I really love to give some examples of that later. And the last one is there is so many traditions. And sometimes when we go over all of these statements, it kind of feels like we're saying that when you talk about dreams is always about your own personal psychology, but just acknowledging that it might not be can give a lot of space and freedom to talk about it. So those are the points. There's so much to discuss there.
Yes, there is. Those are really important points. And I'd love to dive into them one by one because I have a lot of thoughts just about what each one means and what it looks like in action. So, in the first one, where you were saying essentially the dream belongs to the dreamer, right? You don't want to just tell somebody, oh, this is for sure what your dream means and, imprint beliefs and, expectations into somebody. But it's great to dialogue about dreams and talk about dreams. And when it comes to analysis or interpretation, you have to be careful because you have to own your projections, and that's why there's the whole usage of wording it as if it were my dream or in my vision of this dream and my projection of this dream. And what that does is like it really owns your projection of like, this is my experience of hearing your dream and what I think based on my knowledge and experience and lifestyle and everything. And it gives the dreamer the space to say, yes, I feel that, I resonate, or I don't, or, that's not what it means to me. Ultimately, they can read dream dictionaries and get ideas and interpretations, but it's essentially up to the dreamer to decide what the dream means.
And people who work with me know that I'm even more strict about that than most people. Like I don't have to be because it's all about knowing that, okay, you dream something, I might have some ideas about it, but those are my ideas, not yours, right? But for me, I come from a coaching background and I've been really trained on as a coach, you're not an advisor, right? So you don't tell people you got to leave that job because they might not want to. You got to help them figure out what they want and also what their problem is. And it's like, that gave me a perspective on also when we are trying to figure something out for ourselves, how fragile that is. And I want to give an example for that where you can really see how even a dream dictionary that says, oh, it could mean this, or it could mean that, or I don't know, or someone who says, well, if it was my dream, I would see that, how could sort of maybe sometimes take a step away rather than towards the whisper of your own little soul that says, hey, but I'm trying to tell myself something here. This was for a magazine. I was interviewed for a magazine and they said, how about we get you in touch with someone who has a dream that they have a problem with so that we can make an article about what you guys came up with in the end, which I loved. So this woman came and she was like a mid-20s student and she came to me with a dream. She said, I keep dreaming of water and I'm trying to not dive into it. So she said, I looked it up and I know that water stands for emotions. So am I afraid to dive into my own emotions? I get it. This is a conclusion, but I hadn't heard the dream yet. So I didn't know. And I thought, this is tricky because that might be true, that might not be true. But now she's thinking this about herself and she felt really bad about it because she said, I've been doing therapy and I've been really, in the day, I really try to like know myself. And then I dream it and I look it up online and it says, oh no, you're afraid to dive into your own emotions. Like, what am I doing wrong? But I didn't know if she was doing something wrong because I hadn't heard the dream yet. So this is what she actually dreamt and see if you can spot it because this is really cool. She dreamt that she was standing by the side of a pool or a water or something. She took this one dream as example. And all of her friends were swimming because all of her friends had been, playing around, messing around, playing soccer and then jumping in, yay, swimming, hot day. But she was on her way to a job interview. She really kind of didn't want to get her hair wet. So they were all like, oh, come on, jump on in. And she stood by the pool thinking, I really don't want to. I just came to say hi. And then they pushed her in. And then the dream ended with her just trying to hold on to the railing, being, please, I don't want to do this. And her friend's like, come on, it'll be fun. and that's where it ended. And it was always that same theme of her friends being like, come on, jump in. And she was like, I really don't want to. I understand that if you have that feeling, and it's pretty intense, and you try to figure out what it means, and you read, okay, you're trying to not dive into your own emotions, you're going to try to make that make sense in your mind. But I was like, no, stop for a second there. Because the real feeling for her was that feeling of, I don't want to, and they're trying to draw me in. So I said, do you know that feeling from anywhere in your life? That feeling of, I don't want to, and your friends are like, come on, do it. She's like, yeah, all the time. Like, I have to study and then, we're in a bar and everybody's, oh, one more drink. And then I stay. But actually I had to study. Or, oh, don't leave the party yet. Come on, it's going to be fun. And then I stay. But actually I have to leave. Or then I go to the bar anyway when actually I have to study. And it happens all the time and I just won't listen. Maybe I should stand up for myself more. And I said, wait a minute. Even with that conclusion. Because in the dream, did you not stand up for yourself? She said, yeah, I did. Actually was crying and screaming, please stop. And they just wouldn't listen. It's okay, maybe that's not the solution. But look at it again. What happened there? Can you tell me physically what happened? And then she came up with something. She hadn't told me yet. I had no idea. But it was so brilliant. She said, you know what? I say in my dream I don't want to, but I'm standing right by the pool. Like I only need a little push. Like I actually do want to. What if I just change my body language? And I said, would that work in real life? She said, absolutely. If I get up and get my coat, they'd be like, okay, bye, see you next time. But I sit there saying, yeah, I have to go. But I just keep sitting. So yeah, of course they're going to give me another drink. Yeah. And if I just don't go to the bar, they're going to be fine with it. But I do it anyway. It's almost like I say no, but when my body language says yes, I can say no all I want. They're just going to listen to what I do, not to what I say. Actually, that makes so much more sense. And then I said, okay, so back to step one. Is this about you not diving back, not trying to see your own subconscious? She was like, no, not at all. This is about me just following up, me follow through. If I say no, do no. That's what it's about. And for her, I could see the relief on her face. But we would have never gotten there if I had put my ideas on her dream, because I didn't know. Like, I don't know the woman. And even if I did know, I wouldn't have come up with that because I wasn't in her dream. So I didn't see her standing by the pool. That was additional information that she only discovered when she let go of those concepts that she'd gotten from internet or wherever. And this is why I'm super strict about making space and trying to really say, okay, but what actually happened there? Without trying to be smart about it and interpret it first.
I love that. Wow, that's honestly so powerful. And you really did what this ethics statement says here, which says guides the dreamer to more fully experience, appreciate, and understand the dream. And just by asking questions, getting more details about what the dream actually happened. A lot of times people will at first be like, oh, what does dreaming of water mean? And then they won't, dive into the rest of the dream, what was happening, all the stories, all the details. So I really love that. And I think it encourages people to trust themselves, not just see a dream dictionary as an authority or a dream expert as knowing more than themselves. I see that a lot just online as well. So it really empowers the dreamer. I love that example.
I love that you say that empowerment. I think for me, that's what it's all about. It's a little bit like, if I'm in a bad relationship and 20 friends tell me, just leave the man, I won't do it. But if 20 friends tell me, you know what, I keep hearing you say the same thing over and over again. What do you think when you hear that? What would you recommend when someone is in that position? Then it's much more powerful what I'm going to say. I might do it, I might not do it, but whatever I come up with is going to be from myself, which is so empowering. So I love that you use that word.
Yes, exactly. I think it's really important. So when you said every dream can have multiple meanings and different techniques can be employed to touch these multiple layers of significance, I really love this one because I always tell people like dreams are not always literal or they could mean multiple different things. Sometimes it's not just black and white or yes or no, easy to tell what something means. Dreams are so multifaceted, which is something that I love about them. It touches so many different areas of our lives within this intricate storyline. So I think it's okay to not attach just to one meaning and to explore it with different methods. Sometimes if you do different dream work methods and techniques that have been established, you'll get different results from each of them. So I think that's just something really cool about dreams in general.
I kind of really like that you use the word explore there rather than interpret, because that's how it feels to me, even working with my own dreams. And I do remember growing up, because we live in this narrative of things are supposed to mean one thing. So when I was younger, I would try to look for like the one true meaning. Almost like, with everything, not just dreams. Like, what is my purpose in life? What is my one true career? Like, what is my one true love? We are trying to look for that one thing that's fixing everything. And then when I got older and I dove into dream work, it really opened my mind that instead of looking for, like spending all this energy looking for the true meaning, the answer, I could use it, like you said, as a starting point for exploration and discovery for things that I might not have thought about or I might not have known about myself, which means that with one dream over time, I could see multiple levels when I would revisit it, which is really fun because you revisit it and you're at a different stage in your life. So you see it completely different right now, and it might trigger a completely different train of thoughts that is relevant for the now. So I really love that word, exploring rather than interpreting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. So number three is basically about consent. Like if I were to share a dream with you right here, we agree right here and now, like, this stays here, or like, oh, you can share this experience, just don't use my name,
Yeah.
anonymous participation, or I don't care, share with the world, whatever. That's okay as long as everybody involved agrees on, what the sharing of the dream is going to look like.
Yeah. And it's also a little bit for me about safety, knowing that you can stop this at any time because you don't know what's going to come up, or you might get bored, or you might want to do. For little kids, I always find it very important to remember that they might just start changing the subject and then don't bring it back. Just let them go. It's fine. If they're done talking about it, they're done talking about it. If it's important, it'll come back. Or with clients, if they're done talking about something, they're done talking about it. And it's fine. I don't have to push them or pressure them because there's something radical about it, saying, this is your dream. So you're also in charge of this process. I'm not going to be like, no, 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 but we talked about this one thing, so we have to keep. No, no, no. The agency and the power that you give to someone when you're saying, I'm literally just facilitating this conversation, but I'm not leading it, it's more difficult than you think. Because specifically, even for myself, there's such temptation, how do you say, in being the big expert who knows things. And to just not do that and allow yourself to be incredibly dumb and let the other person lead, that takes guts.
Yes, that's true. Even when listening to somebody's dream, I already have my own thoughts and projections about which dream symbol is cool and stands out to me and that I want to dive deeper. But I always ask the dreamer as well, like, what symbols stand out to you? Like, what are you curious about this dream? I don't want to, put my own questions out there when it may not even be the part of the dream that the dreamer was even curious about, too.
I love that. I think that's a great tip to just, for anyone, if you want to talk about dreams, asking what stands out to you, because that's what people want to talk about. I think that's a really good tip because you're going to get
Yes.
information that you didn't expect.
Exactly, which leads to number four, unexpected issues and emotions that can arise as of course of this process. It's good that people know that, not all dreams are peachy perfect unicorns. Some dreams bring up trauma and repressed emotions and things that are difficult to deal with. And so a lot of times we can tap into, these emotional reactions when it comes to talking about our dreams. And although it's good to embrace that, it's good that the dreamer know, like you said, we could take a step back and take a break from this if needed.
It's again with the safety, but also I've experienced that so many times. I mean, when I got married, one of the first things my husband learned was how to ask questions about dreams, which he learned really quick. It's not that hard. So it was so funny because it would happen that I was just like, oh, did you ever dream last night? And I would just start telling him, oh, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, oh, do you want me to ask some more questions? I don't think there's more to it. Oh, but let's ask. And 5 minutes later, I'm like, yes, it's so true about my mom. The rest of the day crying and processing. You don't know. Yeah, it was. I mean, he was really cool about it. It was funny.
I love that. Yeah, I love teaching people in my life too, just about how to do dream work and all about dreams. That's great.
Yeah.
So, number five, maybe you can help me with this one. It's kind of similar to three at first glance. Mutual agreement about the degree of privacy and confidentiality essential for creating a safe atmosphere for dream sharing. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I was getting at. So,
It adds a little bit, though. In my mind, I don't. It doesn't literally say that. For me, it adds also because friends come up to me at, let's say I'm a birthday party and I accidentally tell people what my job is, which means the rest of the night people will tell me their dreams. It's just how it happens. But then I have to be mindful to say, hey, how about we sit at a quiet spot? Because I do want to listen to it and I don't mind doing that. Even right here, it's just a dream. It's fine. But I know that I'm going to be responsible for a little bit of privacy and creating, or just putting your phone down when you're listening to your friend's dream or to your kid's dream, or just creating that space of attention of, I know this is important. I value this. I value you. So I'm going to make actual space and attention for this and not going to be sitting here thinking about my grocery list.
Yes, that's really important too. And that, the other person can feel that energy and, feel that you're interested in the dream, which we love getting people excited talking about dreams. I love when people tell me their dreams. So I'm locked in.
Yeah. And I mean, even though it's wrapped in lots of imagery and emotions, people are telling you something really personal. So I think it makes sense to value that and create a little bubble around it where that has the time and space that it needs.
Yeah, exactly. Love that. So the next one is a big one, very important. I know we have a lot of thoughts on this one. Dream work outside of a clinical setting is not a substitute for psychotherapy or other professional treatment and should not be used as such. I know that this does not mean that dream work is not valuable in psychotherapy. It can be used in therapy in different ways. A lot of, practitioners are incorporating dream work and talking to their clients about dreams. All it I think the main message of this one is to don't ignore medical or psychological help if you need it. Like dream work is not a sole substitute. We still value medicine and getting mental health therapy.
I love that perspective on it. I came in with another perspective, but I think you're absolutely right. I came in more of a selfish perspective. Like sometimes I want to make a t-shirt that says, I'm not your therapist, because it's different. And it's actually one of the things that I have. If I teach a lot of workshops to people, like how do you talk with each other about dreams? Because it's not like it's hard. It's just that you need to be mindful of it. And one of the things, because we're so used to associating talking about dreams with therapy, just traditionally, I think Freud did an amazing marketing job there. But let's say I want to talk about a friend of, that podcast of Amina, I got in such a fight and blah, blah, blah. I don't need to go to a therapist. Talking about ourselves, we do with our friends on basically any topic in the world. But when it comes to dreams, we're used to, our minds are trained to associate that with therapy. That's step one. Now, step two, what I notice in workshops is because step one is true, step two is people will subconsciously try and play therapist because we think we have to, because now we're talking about dreams, but we don't. And this idea of give the space to listen, give the space to have empathy, give the space to help someone phrase what they're going through and what they're feeling with this dream is amazing. Doesn't make a therapy, just makes you a really awesome friend. And to make that distinction, I love that they put that in the ethics statement of, we don't have to sit there on a therapist's chair or pretend that we have to now be a therapist just because it's about dreams. We can actually just listen to each other.
Yes, that is so, so important. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the both of our perspectives are important here. I'm going to need a shirt that says I'm not your therapist. Great. Okay, should we go into the last
Yeah.
one?
Also a really good one.
Yes, it is. So IASD recognizes and respects that there are many valid and time-honored dream work traditions, and we invite and welcome participation of dreamers from all cultures. There are social, cultural, and transpersonal aspects to dream experience. And in this statement, we do not mean to imply that the only valid approach to dream work focuses on the dreamer's personal life. I love this one. It's basically, saying that there's so many different ways to look at dreams and they're all okay.
Yeah. And also it reminds me every time I read that I grew up in the Netherlands, so I come from a cultural background. I have my own traditions, which means I have my own prejudice when it comes to things. I think that one thing means one thing for me because that's true in my life. I know what a windmill means. But for me, a windmill is literally what I grew up in. So for me, it's just a house. But for someone who doesn't have that in their lives, it's going to be a completely different idea. And this concept of the way we think about anything in our life is our way, but it doesn't have to be your way. And I shouldn't be trying to put that on you. I love that IASD tries to make space for so many different ways. So this is one of my favorite ones.
Well, for this one, my tip would be to do some research of all the different historical things that dreams have been used in, the different ways that different cultures and societies have honored dreams. Because maybe in my Western experience, I didn't grow up with dreams being something valuable, but there are a lot of families and cultures that did. And learning about that has been really like interesting to me and broadened my overall perspective of how dreams, are used. So I don't know.
I
Maybe
love
there's other
that.
tips.
No,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, no, you make me think about that one time when I just started with DreamWorks. So I would talk about it with everyone. And there was this cab driver. And just, we just started chatting because I chat with everyone. That's just my personality. And he started to talk about dreams, and he said, yeah, okay, but I'm a Muslim, so for us it's very important when your wife is pregnant, the dreams she has, you have to listen to them. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, she dreamt that her son's going to be named Ishmael, so her son's going to be named Ishmael. I was like, see, I don't have that, but I love it. And just chatting with other people and getting their perspective is so surprising.
Yes, I love that. I also think pregnancy dreams are so cool. I've made just some podcast episodes just about that. And that makes me think of something else as well. When you do travel and see the world and see how other people do things in other, places, and how dreams are incorporated, it's good to give credit to the things you learn, which obviously, is pretty self-explanatory. Not to take somebody's dream method and call it your own, but yeah, to honor the people that have inspired you to do the work that you're doing.
Oh yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I do like that. Well, for me right now, I was super inspired by two people. It's Dr. Gail Delaney, who gave me the interview method for dream work. I read her book when I was like 17 or something, and it impacted me deeply because it gives so much space for the other person. I love it. There's not even any space for projecting, just saying, okay, how can I make space for you? Which, yes, for me, that fits my personality type. So kudos to her.
I love her. And she was one of the founders of IASD, right?
This is true. Yeah, this is true. And she's still
Love
one of
her.
my mentors.
Okay, cool. What other tips do we have on these points?
Well, it's walk backwards. Dream work is not a substitute for therapy. My tip would be there. Remind yourself how incredibly small your mind is, because it happens. And every time I do a workshop or a training on how to talk with dreams, specifically with people who know a little bit, so they go fast. After a while, you've kind of heard it all. You think. And you kind of feel like you hear a dream story and you're like, oh, I know where this is going. No, you don't. And when you think you do, you know you're going to be wrong. But that is difficult, as humans are great pattern recognizers. We want to get to the answer fast. That's just how our brains work. We're efficient that way, but we skip steps when we do. And more importantly, we're going to take the power away and make it our power. Look at me being so smart. The love to be smart, which I have in my soul so much, I have to just put aside and dare to be stupid.
Yeah, it's true. It's very humbling, but it's important because then it's so much more powerful to see the dreamer come to their own conclusions. It feels better in the end,
Yeah, and
even if
you're
it's the
not
same
being.
conclusion that you would have given them.
It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Well, the privacy thing for me, my tip would there be just talk about just I just say, even when it's on a radio show, when there's 100 people listening, I just try to make sure that people don't go too deep and make sure that we say, look, we're not going to talk about this outside of this setting. Just try to, I try to, yeah, I try to just make people aware that this isn't a throwaway thing. It feels important because it is important.
For the unexpected issues that can come up, I would just add a disclaimer, to anybody that you're talking with dreams, especially if it's a formal group. Disclaimer like, hey, just so you know, let me know what you're comfortable sharing, and if you're not comfortable talking about your dream anymore, or if anything unexpected comes up, that's okay. We can hold space for that. So sometimes a little disclaimer goes a long way.
I love that. Yeah. And Reverend Jeremy Taylor, who was also one of the founders of IASD, he recommended that you'd always, specifically in a training session or a workshop, that you'd always have some phone numbers of clinicians at hand that you can, if people really need it, say, okay, here's a referral of someone I know and trust. It's nice. It's helpful.
Yes, exactly. So the last three, a dreamer's decision can be taken back or whatever, discontinue sharing. That's pretty simple. I would say just listen, like just be in tune with somebody's body language and what they're saying, and just try to respect that without having to pry information out of somebody.
I like that, being in tune with someone's body language. You say it like it's a given, but it is something to be mindful of. And I also noticed that even when within discussing a dream, some that when asking questions about the dream, like, okay, what happened there? What happened there? How did you feel about it? Sometimes people are like, I don't know. Then I don't push, because if they're like, I don't know, then it might not be important. Then we go on to something like you said. Ask people, what do you feel is important? What did you found the strangest moment, or the weirdest moment, or the most important moment, or the most important symbol? Actually, it's a little bit of a side street, but it makes me think of a really important dream that happened in a workshop, and I'm allowed to share it, where someone had a dream. It illustrates how subtle it is of how we interpret things. Because she dreamt that she saw a horse, and first the skin fell off, you saw the blood in the muscles, and then the blood in the muscles fell off, and you saw the skeleton, and in the middle was a heart. And the entire group went, ew. And that is an interpretation. It's a very instinctive, you're like, whoo, horror. And she had to correct. She had to say, no. It was really beautiful. It was this really beautiful creature standing there. And one by one, the layers fell off until the heart remained. Those were her words. And now we all saw the beauty of it. Now we all saw, oh. So we said, so you dreamt of something that one by one, the layers fell off and then the heart remained. So what is it? Like, could you tell me more about a heart? Like, if I don't know a heart, how would you explain that? She said, well, that's the core, obviously. Okay. So the layers fell off and the core remains. What does that tell you? And she said, oh, yeah, no, that's really deep, because I'm on this road to self-discovery and I'm thinking, oh, I have to work really hard to find myself. But actually, if I just let all the outer layers fall off, my core will remain. I am always there. I was always there. Just getting rid of the noise is all I need to be doing. Actually, that's really helpful. But we would never have gotten there if we had allowed ourselves to go on our street of ooh, horror. Luckily, she course corrected. But that was her way of saying, stop. This is not horrible. This is actually really beautiful. And luckily, the group gave the space. So that made space for that beautiful moment. But that also, I think, is what this statement means. Of not even just, okay, I want to stop talking about dreams now, let's do something else. Fantastic. Let them. But also, I want to stop with this avenue because something else is more important to me. It's more nuanced, but I think it's really important.
It is. And it's so easy you don't even realize sometimes when you're just projecting your own thoughts and you don't even know how the dreamer feels about a certain thing in the dream. So, yeah, it's definitely good to really see how the dreamer feels about things before putting your projections onto it. So, yeah, I love that example.
Yeah, which comes to number one again. The dreamer is the one who holds the authority. And even though my face has a lot of opinions about things, those are my opinions.
Yes. And I really take this one very much seriously, because one thing I always tell people is, you have the power of what your dream really means. Like, I can't tell you what your dream means. I can help you come to different ideas, and there may be multiple different ideas, because people sometimes, when they're new to dream work, they might think that every dream has one specific meaning, like we were saying earlier. So I always just really make that a part of my language to say, do your research and ask opinions, but don't expect that anybody but you as a dreamer has the answer, and be open to multiple layers that may even come up later on.
Yeah, I love the word exploring that you do. I do get a little suspicious when people say, oh, just tell me your dream and I'll tell you what it means. Like, how do you know, though? How can you do that with anything else but staying very superficial and maybe even steering someone a little bit in the wrong direction. Like, oh, water means this. Well, maybe to you. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why it's really important to state that even if you are good at diving into dreams and helping people interpret them, you still have to say, hey, you're the expert, not me. The
Oh, I
dreamer
like
is the
that.
expert.
That's another t-shirt. You're the expert, not me.
Yeah.
That's right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love the closing statement of this ethics statement. I'm going to read it out because this is for me everything. Our purpose, which means IASD's purpose, is to honor and to respect the person of the dreamer as well as the dream itself. And I really like that one. That's so powerful because then it brings it back like it's about you.
That encompasses the whole thing really, really well. I love it. And I love how you mentioned earlier that there's a whole other document just for like more formal classes and DreamWork teachers. But even everything we went over today still applies to that. And anybody thinking about just making more content about dreams, talking in their community about dreams, just anybody on that path to normalize talking about dreams. I'm really happy that we can share this message.
I like that you say normalize talking about dreams because that's would be super fun because it's not like everybody listening to it will think, well, duh, it's not like it's hard, but it gives the framework to say, let's just chat about this, and even if you brainstorm about a dream and explore it together and have fun about it and you get absolutely nowhere, or the next day you think, well, that made no sense, or it might trigger another thought. And that's why I like the word exploring that you use. Like, it's not about what it means, but it is about what train of thoughts can you start with it that might be helpful to you.
Exactly. It's really the process itself can be much more powerful than the final meaning sometimes.
At least that's how I view it. And again, I like that they make so much space for, okay, but there's so many ways to view this. I mean, well, there's one
Exactly.
final thing I wanted to say about that with the so many ways, because with all these layers, I mean, sometimes people have really deep spiritual experience in dreams. They feel like they have out of body experience. They have all these experiences that they wouldn't necessarily want to interpret as though it was a psychological thing. And again, there, I like this idea of not course correcting there. If someone feels that, that's how they feel. And that is way more true than how I feel about it, clearly, or how some book feels about it. But it also goes the other way around. Like, I wouldn't quickly say, oh, that's this, or oh, that's astral projection, if I don't know how they feel about it. And I've learned that when I was extremely young, when I think I was like 12 years old. And I had a dream that for me felt really impactful. And it was, I still remember it to this day, it was about all these people running and running to this one guy who said, I have all the answers. I am the best person in the world. And all these people believed it and were like, yes, let's make it this person president. And yes, let's make this or whatever, or leader of the world or whatever. And I didn't trust it. And I thought he was actually kind of stupid. And I really was scared of people that I didn't trust having power over me. That was something I deeply felt. Now, I was 12. I didn't have the vocabulary. So I asked my dad for help. And I asked my dad, and I told him the dream. And he didn't ask any question and immediately said, oh, well, that's very impactful. I was like, oh, now I felt good. He said, you dreamt of the Antichrist. And I was like, what? I didn't know what that was. And that was the last time I told my dad a dream, because now he started this whole rant about how he felt about it. And I thought, see, but that, even if it's true, is not helpful to 12-year-old me, because I am struggling with feeling powerless, clearly. And I was at the time. And I was struggling with all these decisions that parents made. And I was trying to figure out, how do I feel about it? And will they please listen? Well, I'll tell you, they didn't. Because even when I told the dream, they were like, oh, that means this. Like, please stop. That's how I learned to keep it to myself. Now, what if we lived in a world where you give more space so kids don't learn to keep it to themselves, but actually learn to talk about it more because it's fun and it's nice to share. And now you've shared a story, or, you make a drawing about it or whatever. That was one that really got me on this track of, and maybe now that I'm saying it to you, I'm thinking maybe that's why I'm so fierce about it. about I wouldn't even say if it were my dream because it's not my dream. So I'm just like, nope, I'm gonna back off and let you be you.
That's true. Yeah. There's so many different ways you can word that concept. You don't even have to say the if it were my dream part. Yeah, it's about allowing space. I love that you shared that. And I think you're making the 12-year-old you proud because we are entering a world where we are encouraging children to openly talk about dreams and become conscious in their dreams. And I really love seeing that children that have that support. So that's really awesome.
Yeah. My 12-year-old self now thanks everyone who's listening and just doing this with their kids because that's so cool.
It really is. Children are powerful. Okay, so where can people like read more about this? Is it's on the IASD website
Yeah.
if they want to read more deeper into the ethics and confidentiality, as well as find the guidelines to ethical dream work training, right? And all the other
Yeah.
things that they have.
So the website is asdreams.org. And then you go to About IASD, and then there's a drop down menu, and it has ethics and confidentiality, and it just, I mean, it's a much longer statement. There's so much more to it. We click the highlights basically, and there's also a really long statement about what if you go to a conference and you want to present at a conference. What do you have to think about in terms of keeping it ethical? Completely different topic, maybe something for another time. But I really like that they have all these resources out there where you could just, if you want to be interested in doing that, but feel a little insecure, then you can get really clear guidelines of, okay, this is how you're good.
Yes, I really appreciate you diving into these points with me because I do see a lot of people talking about dreams online, and sometimes it's harmful, sometimes it's helpful. So, yeah, I'm really glad, and I appreciate you for helping me share this.
Oh, thank you so much. And thanks for letting me say, look, if someone tries to tell you what your dream means, it's probably more about them than about you.